Sometimes the most relaxing games are the ones that simply let you explore and slowly build something at your own pace, and that's exactly the kind of game that Collector Cove is. Today, I wanted to share all my thoughts on Collector Cove to help you decide if it's going to be worth your time and your money. Now, at its core, Collector Cove is a cozy exploration and farming adventure set entirely on the open sea. Instead of settling down in a traditional village or managing land on a farm, you're traveling across a vast ocean on a small boat alongside your sea companion, which is a customizable Nessie-like creature that helps you navigate the waters. Your goal as a collector is simple. You'll sail between islands, gather resources, grow crops on your boat, catch fish, and slowly fill out your compendium by discovering every species the world has to offer. But what makes Collector Cove really stand out isn't just the farming or the fishing mechanics, it's the way that all of these systems are interconnected through the exploration, progression, and the bond you build with your companion as you travel further across the ocean. The more that you discover, the higher your collector rank becomes, which unlocks new regions, new mechanics, and even rare fabled species of fish and crops that are hidden throughout the world. So the real question becomes, does Collector's Cove deliver a relaxing and satisfying adventure on the high seas, or does its slower pace start to wear thin over time? Now, after spending time in exploring its island, building up my floating farm, and working towards completing the compendium, here's everything that you need to know. At its core, Collector's Cove is a cozy exploration and collection game where your goal is to slowly fill out a collector's compendium while traveling across the ocean on your companion. And yes, your companion is essentially like a little Nessie sea-like creature, which might honestly be one of my favorite parts of the whole game. Your Nessie acts as your means for transportation, carrying you across the ocean to different islands. But it's not just a passive mount, it actually has its own stamina system. So if it gets tired mid-journey, it will stop and rest before continuing. You can feed it fish to help restore that stamina and just keep traveling, which naturally ties together the fishing and the farming systems directly into the exploration. As you continue playing, you can also fully customize your companion, changing its colors, the markings, and unlocking accessories as you progress. But the bonding system goes even deeper than the cosmetics. You can feed your companion specialty crops or fabled species, which increases your bond level with them. And as your bond grows, you unlock these small perks that just make exploration easier, like improving the resources you find on islands or just helping you collect floating barrels while traveling, or even helping water your crops. That was such a game changer for me. Now, eventually, as your rank increases and you gather enough materials, you can even unlock boat upgrades, which expands what your little floating farm can do. The exploration is another huge part of the gameplay loop. You travel across a grid-based ocean map, moving from island to island, gathering resources like wood, fiber, stone, flowers, and ore, and occasionally fish. These materials are essential for almost everything in the game. You use them in crafting structures on your boat, upgrading tools, expanding your farming setup, and just progressing through the different systems. The different regions of the map also offer different types of environments, which you unlock the more that you progress, like the Sakura Forest, the Haunted Woods, and the Tropical Islands, and more. Each of these locations comes with its own resources and crop types, which almost feels like the game's version of seasonal progression, which was kind of nice. Now, early on, though, I did run into a little bit of a frustration with the whole resource system. At the beginning, I often felt like there just simply wasn't enough materials available, and when I returned to the islands, the resources hadn't been regenerated very quickly, and that meant that I occasionally got stuck waiting for materials to come back before I could really progress. It's not a huge issue long term, but the early game can feel a little bit resource tight. Now, instead of building a traditional farm on land, your farm actually lives directly on your boat. You craft planter boxes, place them on your deck where you can plant seeds, water crops, and harvest them once they're ready. One thing I really liked here is the plant UI system. Each crop clearly shows what seed it is, how much water it currently has, and how far along it is in the growth cycle. It even displays whether fertilizer has been applied, which becomes really important later when you start hunting for the rare species. Now, the water management also adds a small twist to the farming. You can't just refill your watering can anywhere. Instead, you need to build a water station, which converts wood into water that you can use for your crops. It's a small mechanic, but it forces you to keep gathering resources and visiting these other islands while maintaining your farm on the boat. Now, the fishing is another core mechanic in the game. This is actually one of my favorite fishing styles in games, and I say that as somebody who usually hates fishing mechanics altogether. The system works like this. You reel it in while the fish is resting, stop when it pulls away, and manage the tension so the line doesn't snap. And you can tell when you're getting close to losing a fish because the tension indicator will start turning orange and red. The fish also follow very specific active times, meaning that only certain species will appear during certain hours of the day. There are also saltwater and freshwater fish, and the game tracks this in your compendium really nicely so you always know where to find each fish. That also becomes extremely helpful when you start hunting for the rare variants later on. I often looked back in the compendium when I was looking for all of these rare species multiple times over and over. Now, the fish are used for multiple systems too, like feeding your companion, crafting materials, trading different resources, and filling out the compendium itself. One of the most unique mechanics in Collector's Cove is definitely the Fabled species system, which at first confused me a little bit. Both fish and crops have rare variants called Fabled species, and to unlock them, you first need to craft specific bait or fertilizer, and then meet these hidden conditions before catching or growing the species. Now, once you discover one, you can feed the Fabled species to your companion to increase your bond level. But there's a catch. You can only feed your companion one of each Fabled species, which really encourages you to keep searching for new ones rather than just repeating the same discoveries. Now, because your entire base is on a boat, crafting plays a huge role in your progression. You'll spend a lot of your time building new structures like planter boxes, compost bins, water station, lots and lots of storage chests, bait makers, crafting stations, everything in between, and even some decorations. These structures allow you to expand your farming, improve fishing, and just unlock new mechanics. One thing I did like is that the building system is pretty forgiving. If you place something in the wrong spot, you can just move it around or destroy it and get your resources back. The only limitation that I ran into is when dealing with the different decks or parts of the boat. Moving something from the upper deck to the lower deck isn't as simple as dragging it over. You have to actually dismantle it and then rebuild it in the new spot, which isn't a huge deal, but it just makes reorganizing my boat a little bit more tedious than I was expecting. You can also build a tool bench, which lets you upgrade your tools and expand your inventory space. And honestly, upgrading inventory was one of the very first things that I focused on because you run out of space really quickly in the early game. Now, whenever you're in need of supplies, you can just ring a bell on your boat, which calls in a traveling shop run by your uncles. Within a couple of in-game hours, your boats connect and you can walk over to access the 3 different shop stalls. Here, you can buy seeds, sell items, exchange resources, unlock recipes, trade rare materials, or receive hints for hidden discoveries. It's a really clever system because it keeps the entire game world centered around your boat. Now, everything in the game ultimately revolves around the Collector's Compendium. This acts as your main progression tracker and records. Every fish you discover, every crop you grow, crafting progress, collectibles, fabled species, just everything you can think of. Completing these entries increases your collector rank and unlocks new opportunities. But beyond the progression, it's also just incredibly satisfying just slowly watching the compendium fill out as you explore the world, especially if you're somebody who just loves completing collections in games. Now, visually, Collector's Cove really leans into a more soft, colorful art style that fits perfectly with the relaxing pace of the game. The environments feel bright and colorful, with different regions all having their own little personality, from the soft pink tones of the Sakura Islands to some of the more darker, more mysterious areas like the haunted forests. The lighting does have a slightly bright, almost washed out look at times, which can make some areas feel a little bit overexposed. But nothing about the visuals feel overly complicated or busy, which actually works in the game's favor. It keeps the world easy to read while still giving each island its own identity as you explore. But where the atmosphere really comes together is through the sound design. The background music is very calm and immersive, the kind of soundtrack that kind of sits quietly in the background while you're sailing between islands or just tending to your crops. It never feels overwhelming, and it really helps reinforce that slow, relaxing pace that the game is going for. The smaller details also stand out here. Something like the sound of water as you move across the ocean or the creaking of the ship The little cues when you reel in a fish, or even the subtle sounds of harvesting your crops on the boat. They're small touches, but together they really help make the whole game come together. Now, after spending a good amount of time sailing around the world of Collector's Cove, I really think the game shines when you just let yourself slow down and enjoy the process. The loop of exploring islands, expanding your floating farm, and discovering the new species, and just slowly filling out that compendium is incredibly satisfying. The companion system also adds a lot more personality to the game than I had expected, and being able to customize it, feed it rare species, and gradually increase the strength of your bond really makes it feel like more than just a mode of transportation. It genuinely feels like you're traveling together with this guy. And that said, the pacing won't be for everybody here, because the progression is heavily tied to collecting every species and discovering their fabled variants. You often find yourself revisiting the same areas multiple times as new fish or crops unlock, and if you enjoy that completionist style of game, that loop can feel really rewarding. But if you prefer faster progression, the repetition might start to wear on you over time. It definitely wore on me a little bit. Now, there are also a few small quality of life things that could really make the game feel even smoother. I would like to see a calendar system for tracking like the weather or special events, which would be incredibly helpful, especially when certain crops or certain discoveries really depend on specific conditions. Overall, Collector's Cove delivers exactly what it promises: a cozy, slow-paced adventure built around exploration, collecting, and building a little life on the open sea. And honestly, I had a really hard time putting this one down this past week. So if you enjoy relaxing farming games, discovery-based progression, and the satisfaction of completing collections, this game is definitely worth keeping on your radar. And that is my review of Collector's Cove. I really hope that it helped you figure out if the game is worth picking up to you or if one that you would rather skip. So let me know in the comments what was your favorite thing about Collector's Cove and if you see yourself playing the game. So if this video helped you get a feel for the game, make sure to like and subscribe for more cozy gaming content, and until next time, happy gaming.